Hey, what's up, Patrick? Quick demo video for you for your Odin's Wrath and your Youngling saber. I've got both of these sabers apart right now, and I'm just going to kind of show you how to put these together and then turn them on. I didn't go too crazy with the config. I didn't go crazy at all, actually. I just put like a sound font on here to show you that they function because you like doing your own config. So we'll just go from there. You know, I just put something on just enough to show you that the sabers work. We will go over the Youngling first. This is a little bit different of a saber because it's a one button setup, but your one button is right here. It's a plunger switch right in the middle of the saber. So it is a little bit difficult to get in there if you don't have a tool. I'm using a long pair of tweezers right now. And I'll show you how I do that, right? But before we do that, here's your chassis. So you got your chassis right here. Easy access to your micro USB, but you will need to pop the board up to get to your SD card. It's just a snap fit down in there. And then you've got your CC Sabers LEDs here. And this particular saber is running a 24mm Smuggler's Outpost speaker. And then it is a single switch setup. So your tactile switch is right here. Now, what you might not see very well in the video, maybe if I can show it in the light, yeah, you can kind of see there's a channel running this length of the chassis, and it goes to about the switch. That's so your plunger switch can ride along that channel, and it helps clock the chassis. This won't go in the saber any other way unless the plunger switch is lined up with this channel. So let's throw a battery in. Yeah, spring side your negative right here. So we'll throw this in just like that. So before we put this in, we got to put the plunger into the saber, right? So the plunger is right here. You want to be careful you don't lose it. It's this little guy right here. And the thick part right there, that goes inside the saber. So what I'm doing basically is I'm putting this on my pair of tweezers like this. And then I'm going to have to fish it in the saber and pop it in that hole. It's going to take a little bit of doing, but once you do it a few times, it'll be all right. It's not so bad. And I'll just flip it over like that. Now we've got that plunger in there. So when we go to put the chassis in, we want to make sure that channel right there is on the same side as the plunger. So facing down, basically, because you're going to have this plunger facing down too. So we just want everything facing down. Remember, it's not going to go in all the way if it's not lined up correctly. So if it goes in on you, then you've got it right, right? So when you're going to put it in, if you feel like it's getting caught because there's not a whole lot of room to do everything, you might bring your finger from up here and kind of press up on the chassis as you're pushing it in, because when you push it in, it should be flush in there. That might be hard to see with no light, but you can see it. It's flush right there with the inner diameter of this handle, and that's where you want it to be. If you don't come in with your finger and kind of help it, kind of lift up the chassis as you're pushing it in, it might get stuck before that switch. So don't force it because you don't want to ruin the tactile switch. Just, you know, you get it once or twice, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But once we get that in there, then we want to put the pommel on. Now what I did is I came in here and I put a spacer in this pommel so that it would keep this chassis pushed forward. So we'll just put this on here. And then when you put this on, you have to put the screw in too. No biggie. So that screw hole, this screw hole right here will line up with the pommel. You'll see that threaded hole in the pommel, and then everything's locked in. And then we come over here and press the button. Now the button is
What could you give me? Everything.
You'll flash on flash. And you come over here and hit the button again right here to turn it off. I didn't put any motion controls or anything on this. I simply just threw a font on here to show you that it worked. The button can be or the switch can be a little bit tedious to press. I'm having good luck hitting it with my finger, but if you can see that, it is pretty far in there, kind of buried with these greeblies. Yeah, but you can hit it.
What could you give me? Everything.
We'll throw a blade in it. What I did with on the spacer inside the pommel too, there were some holes on the side of the pommel piece. I made that spacer pretty solid. I'm pushing all the sound out of these vents right here, and the 24mm speaker sounds pretty good. So we'll throw a blade in. This takes a 7/8 inch blade. Fits in here nice and snug. Goes right in. And then we'll lock it down. One thing about the construction of this saber, let me lock this down first. This piece right here is a separate piece, and it just pushed in there, and it's kind of a press fit down in there. There's nothing holding that. This shroud piece though, there's 3 screws holding that into the wooden handle. But just be aware that this guy is just a press fit in here.
What could you give me? Everything.
So everything's nice and solid once it's in here. Just like that. And now we'll take the blade out. And then we'll go through just taking the battery out, which is a lot easier than putting it in. So there's a little tricks that you're going to have to learn to put the chassis in, but you'll get used to it. But as far as coming out, the thing comes right out. Again, we want to take the screw out of this pommel piece. And then you can basically come over here and just pull this out. A little tight, but not bad. Now, to get this chassis out of here, you don't want to be poking on the speaker, but you can come over here carefully from the emitter side and push just a hair. And then the rest of it should fall out right in your hand, just like that. And then the plunger switch fell out too. So when I send this, I'll have the chassis in it, so we won't have to worry about it. The plunger will be in place, but just realize you're going to have to deal with this guy right here. Okay, there's no good way to keep that in. I tried a little piece of heat tape on the inside of the hilt, and it wasn't staying. But yeah, other than that, that's the Youngling saber, so we'll set that off to the side. And then we'll go over the Odin's Wrath. So again, on the Odin's Wrath, I didn't go crazy with anything. I just put a sound font on here to to demo the saber, to let you know that it works. But here's your chassis, and I've got the handle off right now, obviously. So it says Jawa's Junkyard, then it says Odin's Wrath 2.0 over here. Removable battery setup, so spring side's your negative. Again, press fit with the board, so you can just pop it up like that. Pop it up like this, do what you need to do, and then snap it back down. You don't need to take it all the way out of the shelf. It is an extremely tight snap fit, so I would suggest just kind of like doing like that and then snapping it back down. And then you're also running 28mm Smuggler's Outpost Elite speaker back here. Did a little finagling back here to get this to work, but everything works well. And then you've got an 18 accent pixel strip here, and then I glued on this piece of blade diffusion so that we could diffuse that light a little bit, and it looks really cool. So one sound font, extra blade style to kind of show you what everything does, and then you could add your own stuff. Well, let's throw a battery in. Oh, let's go over the switches first. You got 2 switches, obviously. You got your main switch right here, and then your auxiliary switch over here, and they both have magnets glued onto them. So let's put a battery in, and then we'll throw the handle on. So that's kind of what I've got it doing while it's off, just to show you. And we'll take the handle, throw it on, and then your main switch and your activation switch are on magnets, and I'll show you how to do that. So we'll line these up when you tighten the handle down, it automatically lines up the switches, so you don't have to worry about that. But then you can see what we did here on the handle. Now this orange switch right here, or this orange groovely, that is your activation, and that gets popped in just like that, right? And then this little guy, this little blue guy on a magnet is your auxiliary, and it gets put in that other hole, just like that. So when you get those switches in, you can swing it on this config, and then you got that animation when the blade is on. Auxiliary over here. Or you just tap the button. Tap it again to turn it off. Now, one thing, you will need to have these buttons aligned properly, or the magnets aligned properly in the chassis from the handle for these buttons to work, right? Because this guy, it's a pretty tight fit onto that switch, so it's very touchy, just like that. So let's throw a blade in it. This one actually takes a 1-inch blade. I did JB weld this shroud on per the instructions, and then you've got your blade retention screw right here. So this one fits my little test blade. Sounds really good with that 28 in there. So you see, I made these kind of react to battle mode. Just like that. So we'll take this blade out. Yeah, I've only got the one sound font on there to demo this guy for you. So yeah, you've got a little bit of some things that you got to get used to. There's one thing on each saber, right? So the Youngling will be putting the chassis in the saber. Remember to go in through the emitter and kind of help yourself out, get past the switch. And then on this guy, it will be making sure that when you screw this handle on, because there is just a little bit of play, you could crank down on it real tight and you'd lose your spot. If you just tighten it though, it'll be right on. It's all about lining these switch holes up so that when you take these guys out or put them in, they line up exactly where they're supposed to be, right? So this guy comes out pretty easy, the main switch. On the blue one though, it's kind of flush with this greebly that it's sitting in, and it makes it very difficult to take it out. I've been using a pair of tweezers, and you kind of got to go in from the side of the, whoops, go in from the side of the switch and pull it out like that. And then once you have your two switches out, you can go ahead and take the handle off. So once you got the handle off, pretty easy to come in here and just take your battery out with your finger, just like that. So yeah, that's your Odin's Wrath and your Youngling. Let me know if you got any questions. If not, I will try to get these out in the mail to you tomorrow. Thanks, Patrick.